In the latest episode of Fantasy Island, a new potential series regular is added, and unlike Ruby, they may not be someone who's meant to be of service to Elena or the island, but instead is meant to better the development of one character a bit. So let's start off this recap with the bachelor party, which is celebrating Mateo's nuptials, which features Sean and Eli, his best friends. Together, as we've seen with any Fantasy Island episode, as much as they may come in as a group, they have individual fantasies they explore, which allow them to get to know themselves better, and in time, they get to learn about each other a bit more. So, starting off with the easy stuff and then kind of working our way up, we have Eli, who has never been the most attractive person in his mind, so he decides his fantasy is to be a ladies' man, but as he gets a bunch of superficial attention, he realizes that he wants something more substantial, so he learns his lesson. Following him, we have Mateo, who is somebody who has this memory of a woman he had a one night stand with that was so passionate, that was so like sounds and words I'm not going to say here. And he decides he wants to live that one more time, but he decides to change what happened in his memories and alter the fantasy a little bit. And this allows him to see that what happened was a by chance thing that was good. But if he would have took a left or right or went a different direction, he would have learned that woman has a husband, that she doesn't believe in monogamy, and her husband seems to do believe in monogamy, and on top of that, that he should be very appreciative about the woman he's about to marry. For yes, she may not be the wildest or anything like that, but she does know how to tell her dirty jokes. She is fun, so he needs to be appreciative that she's at least balanced, rather than, somebody he has to worry about having affairs or like causing him drama, pain, and disturbing his peace. Which leaves us with Sean. Sean came out in college, and with the support of Mateo and Eli, that has been like the biggest, scariest thing that he's done. And it seems that after doing that, he became fearful of doing most other things. And it's been to his benefit in some ways, but it's also limited his life in other ways. So his fantasies become fearless, and things start off with him trying to do the type of stuff that some people aren't really that comfortable with. And it's little stuff like having a tarantula in his hand, going to the ocean, getting a tattoo, little things that one of the characters who we'll speak about in a moment, plays down because it's not really what he's truly scared of. Because what he's truly scared of is confessing his love for Eli, who is very much a straight man. But by the end of the episode, he does so, and while Eli doesn't reciprocate the sexual or romantic feelings, that's still his brother. He loves him dearly, so he embraces him. And while both recognize it's going to be a little bit awkward between them, at the very least, everybody got their fantasy fulfilled, lessons were learned, and nobody got hurt. The second topic for our recap is Helene, who is someone who came to Fantasy Island to find her father. The long story made short is, her mother's name is Blue. Blue had a one-night stand during Hurricane Helene in Belize, and the way that Elena kind of guides Helene, she makes it seem that Mateo, Sean, or Eli could be Helene's father. And with that, she goes into their fantasies and tries to understand them a bit more and try to connect the dots. But unfortunately for her, Sean has only slept with one woman, and that was way, way long ago. Eli is not her father, because as much as he may have a nice smile, like Blue would say of Helene's father, the times and the locations that Eli has traveled to don't match up. And the same goes for Mateo. So with that, Helene is very frustrated because she's having all these conversations with these men, which is helping them with their fantasies and giving them insight about their lives and futures. And meanwhile, her own pursuit of happiness, having her fantasy fulfilled and all that, is going nowhere. Which leads us to the last topic, which is the end of one chapter for somebody and the start of a new chapter for another. Now, as established in the first episode of this season, Gina has broken up with Ruby, and being that this is Ruby's first queer breakup, she's very much in shambles. Well, maybe that's taking it too far. she's definitely in her feelings at the very least. But with Mateo's bachelor party, with Elena in love, she's trying to like feed off of other people's joy and happiness and try to use that in order to boost herself up. She even decides to plan Mateo's bachelor party and have it expand so the whole island can join in order to give herself distractions. But after a certain point, Elena's of the opinion where she shouldn't be seeking out distraction. She should be looking to deal with her issues. So even though it seems a little bit dramatic, Ruby decides to burn all the stuff that she has that she associates with Gina. And after doing that, she thinks to complete this cleanse, and she cleans part of herself by burning this stuff. She's gonna take a skinny dip in the ocean to finish her cleanse. And with that, she finds Isla, the person who gave her a tattoo, and who she couldn't find when she was hanging out with Sean earlier to get him a tattoo. And what makes that notable, the fact that she couldn't find her earlier, is because when Ruby was asking about Isla with the tattoo person on the beach, he acted like he didn't know who she was. So Isla appearing again is very questionable, but Ruby doesn't get that deep into it because she's naked in the water, Isla's naked in the water, they're having a conversation, and her main focus is, it's so nice to see her again, more than why is it that the guy didn't know who you were, what are you, who are you, because the way Isla makes it seem, as of now, she mainly just goes skinny dipping at night, and what she does in the day is anybody's guess. Now, setting aside Ruby and focusing on Javier and Elena, they're still in bliss. She even shows off a hacienda that nobody knows about, and the only way that you can know about it or see it is through her telling you about it. Otherwise, it's completely cloaked by island magic. But while they're in this beautiful place, definitely in their honeymoon stage, then comes Helene, who discovers that Javier's her father. He's the one that slept with her mother, and to no fault of his own, he didn't know that he had a daughter out there. And because Helene is somebody who so badly wants to feel some type of connection again after losing her mom a year ago, Elena decides to invite her to stay at Fantasy Island. And with that, you can see that Javier is very happy. Elena is... It's hard to say how she's feeling right now because she just got this man and now she has to share him with somebody, much less his kid. But, she's trying to do her best. And not for nothing, when it comes to Helene, Elena notes that her ability to go into other people's fantasies, including going through the door and just jumping right into Mateo's fantasy, is not a normal thing. So it could very well be that the island drew Helene to itself so that she can perhaps be a second assistant or maybe even set up the line of succession for Elena. Who knows? So in terms of highlights, the first highlight for us is what Helene could bring to the show, and that's because when it comes to Fantasy Island, we were shown in season 1 that some people stay longer than they are expected to. Not everybody's an episodic character who comes in and then goes out after they deal with their fantasy. Some people have extended stays because of trauma, because they're still looking for something, they didn't get to complete their fantasy in the hour episode. There's a whole bunch of reasons people stick around. So with Helene coming in the second episode and us sticking around, it does make you wonder, could anybody else down the line do the same? Then when you add in that Helene's going to add details to Javier's life and also complicate Elena's relationship with Javier, there's also the reason to question if maybe other people from the past could show up. Could someone from Segundo's life show up and possibly give us some information about him? What about all the family members that Ruby left behind? I mean, we know her husband has passed away, but what about the grandchildren, her children? Could they possibly show up? Kyla Pratt's due to come in later episodes, and could she perhaps be a descendant of Ruby? Checking in on her, or not even knowing that Ruby is her grandma or mother and, just being there and Ruby maybe longing for what she left behind? Which isn't me trying to say I want Ruby to leave the island so that she can see her family again, since I don't know with the magic and how it works whether or not that would kill her or not, but it's that possibility that comes with Helene and her coming to the island that makes you wonder, how does the island make its plans? And how much control does Elena, Ruby, or anybody have in those plans, especially when it comes to the long-term stuff, not just the short-term? The next highlight for us is the mystery of Isla, and it's mainly because a part of me almost gets the vibe that when it comes to Fantasy Island, it's hard to really tell outside of Segundo, Elena, Ruby, Javier, who is a real person and who is a manifestation of the island. Because as much as it was established in the last episode that Elena, through the island magic, can tap into different timelines and possibilities, that doesn't explain who the people who we meet on the island are. So in the case of Isla, is she just a continuation of Ruby's old fantasy being brought back to life now that Ruby is back in that journey of finding love with another woman? Is it that perhaps Isla could be some type of mermaid or a siren or just simply some woman who likes to swim nude in the nighttime? It's all very hard to say, and with the island magic still being something that we see as potentially mysterious and could also be potentially a bad thing, because I still feel like the vibe from that horror movie version of Fantasy Island still should apply here. Either way you look at it, Isla's appearance brings a lot of questions, not just in regards to who she is and maybe what she is, but also in terms of island magic. How far does it go and when does a fantasy truly end, especially if you don't leave the island? So our last highlight is Eli and Sean. And part of the reason is because with the introduction of Sean and then Ruby and him communicating, you get to see, and also have to tip your hat to Fantasy Island for making it so characters can be gay, lesbian, what have you, but that's not the sum of their character. It is part of who they are, but it's not the only thing that defines them. And in terms of Eli and Sean, there was this movie called Close that came out last year, though I think it got a bit more of a more wider release this year, where two boys, I forgot what country they were from, and they get close and they become distant once one of the boys seeks out intimacy with the other one, platonic, completely PG kind. And he seeks that in public, and one of the boys kind of pushes him off and rejects him and seeks out other friendships in the process. Now, when it comes to that film, is that sad depiction of how intimacy between boys and eventually men, is real complicated and fraught, because the assumption of people being gay is such an issue that it kind of complicates anything that could be between two men, boys, or whatever. But with Eli and Sean, you see what can be considered a realistic depiction of how things could go if one friend confessed to the other, even though the other friend is straight. Yes, it can be very awkward, but at the same time, even if there's no reciprocation in terms of romance or lust, there's still a love there that kind of trumps all that issue and all that can make someone feel uncomfortable, because you've been there for each other so much and nothing's happened. And there's this, I don't want to say assumption, but there's this trust of, yes, you may have these feelings, but you also have self-control, so I don't need to worry about you, like that, because clearly whatever feelings you may have, they're not going to get in the way of our friendship. And you're not going to do anything that makes me uncomfortable or makes it so that we can't continue this friendship. And as much as I do love you, I don't love you in the way that you may want me to love you, but at the same time, that doesn't mean my love means anything less than it did before. If that makes any sense. Overall, with a new character joining the show, possibly temporary, maybe permanently, Fantasy Island has found a way to perhaps shake things up a little bit in the long term while maintaining quality episodic content when it comes to people like Mateo, Sean, and Eli.